Hi, and welcome to another edition of the Gooner Ramble podcast with me, Akhil, and I'm back with another special. Today we've got journalist from the Daily Mail, Sami Mokbel, here talking all things Arsenal. So Sami, thanks for being here with us. I know you're on your way to cover Southampton-Liverpool, so we appreciate it.
No problem at all, Akhil.
So Arsenal, it's a club we all love to talk about. I think. I mean, obviously, I'm a fan. You're a writer, but I think with the world of social media, I mean, I was talking to Matt Law earlier, who was saying that he's starting to cover Chelsea a lot more now, just because of that's kind of how it's happened at the Telegraph. But he said it's a lot easier on social media, and the Chelsea fans are a lot more gentle. How have you found Arsenal fans on Twitter, and have you interacted much? Do you enjoy that side of the job? Because I guess, a few years ago it wasn't really there.
No, listen, social media completely changed the game, in my opinion, in terms of journalism. You have so many good bloggers out there. Actually, brilliant reads, and also you've got guys out there on Twitter who also get, little snippets of information that can be bang on the money and right on. So even that, you have people on Twitter and on other sites breaking news stories. So in that sense, Akhil, it's been a massive game changer in terms of interacting with supporters. I always, rightly or wrongly, I always tend to kind of take a step back. Only because you can, no, it's not everyone, and it's a minority. Some can be quite, for the want of a better word, aggressive on Twitter and constantly criticising, and it can bog you down as a journalist. I know a lot of people think journalists, are thick-skinned and it doesn't bother them, but when you have someone hurling abuse at you, it can eventually take its toll. So in terms of that sort of interaction, then I kind of take a step back. I try to when I can, but more often than not, I kind of don't.
Yeah, I recorded a podcast with Neil Ashton recently, and obviously him and Arsenal fans have got a little bit of history, and he's wrote a few things that I guess the majority of Arsenal fans didn't agree with, and he kind of said something similar about that it's sometimes, as a journalist, you write something, you're in the passion, you're kind of in the moment rather, and sometimes you do write things that perhaps the next day you think, oh, actually, or you might watch the game again and think, oh, actually, I'm not sure about that, actually, I mean, does that happen to you a lot? I mean, maybe when you're sort of giving player ratings, does sometimes you watch it on the highlights the next day and think, actually, that guy's actually done a lot worse or a lot better than I thought? Yeah.
It happens a lot, actually. When you say, for example, you're at a Champions League game on a live night, you're under a lot of pressure to meet deadlines and to make sure that your stories and your match reports are in on time. So many times you're making snap judgment calls on performances and other aspects of the game. And in the morning, when you switch on, if you switch on Match of the Day or whatever program it may be, you've had a little bit of time to think about it more, and a lot of the times you do have a different opinion. But at the same time, a lot of times that you feel that the story that you wrote and the match report that you wrote and the opinion that you wrote at the time were bang on the money. So it swings and roundabouts, really. But yes, on the whole, you have to, when you write something, you kind of have to stick by it. And I think that the thing that with regards to Neil was the whole the Ozil thing, wasn't it? It was the Nick and the Living. It was the whole Nick and the Living thing. And to be fair to Neil, I think at the time, and I think many, I don't know if supporters would agree with me, but at the time, for £42 million, I don't think he was at the time proving money well spent.
Yeah.
Now it's plain to see that he's playing fantastically well. He's perhaps between him and Sanchez, Arsenal's best player of the season, and he is looking every inch £42 million player, and talks are underway over a new contract, and that's no surprise that he's been, playing fantastically well. But at the time, I think it was fair of Neil to suggest that maybe Ozil wasn't living up to his expectation.
Yeah, I think in the game you talk about, it was, I mean, Neil explained it and said it was that game's that when he said nicking a living, he referred to that one game against Bayern Munich away. But I think what got Arsenal fans a little bit was he was obviously injured the first half, but I don't think you guys knew he was injured. I was in Munich that night, and I certainly didn't know. It was probably after the game where it came out that Ozil, I think, had pulled a hamstring or he had done something. So I think that was probably where it kind of stemmed from. But that's such as life. He's playing well now, so that's all that matters. I've been talking about the right now and talking about opinions. What's your overall opinion on Arsenal right now? Perhaps taking a step back from this week and maybe last week even, but looking at this the season as a whole at the moment.
Season as a whole for me there's a marked improvement on last season. I think I totally perhaps the last two matches with the West Brom and the Norwich results sort of may slightly change my opinion, but prior to that, I genuinely felt that Arsenal were genuine title contenders, and it's been a while since I've actually believed that and thought that. So I think the Petr Cech signing was massive in the summer, not purely because he's still a world-class goalkeeper, probably still in the top three in the world, but just because of the knowledge and the know-how and the experience that he brings. He's been there, seen it, done it. He's won every sort of domestic trophy there is going. So the value that brings to the Arsenal dressing room is massive, and I think largely because of that signing, they've come on leaps and bounds. But we've seen, over the last couple of weeks, obviously particularly November, yes, they've been hit by a number of injuries, but they seem to be dropping points, and the same old doubts come to the surface again and resurface. So at the moment, I still see Arsenal as genuine title contenders, but I think over the next 2 or 3 weeks, particularly with their injuries and how they deal with that, I think we'll get to see whether they'll be in the mix come May.
What do Arsenal need to do to stay in the title race and to perhaps even win it? Is it just getting the players they have fit again? Is it adding to the squad in January? Is it, I don't know, going out the Champions League maybe even? What do you think is the factor there?
I think getting the players fit is a big thing. Whether it's a deeper lying problem at the club with regard to the injuries, or whether it's pure bad luck, there's no hiding away from the fact that the injuries to key players have caused Arsene Wenger a massive problem in terms of his selection. And I don't know, you'll probably speak about later their selection for the game against Sunderland at the weekend is going to be under scrutiny again, and it's going to be a bit of a makeshift team against a side who have now picked up 2 wins and a bounce in Sunderland. So that's not going to be an easy game. So,
well, surely they can't win 3 in a row, can they?
Surely. 3 in a row.
Surely.
But the thing is, Big Sam loves getting one over on Arsenal, doesn't he? So he'll have his players bang up for the game. But I think, as you said, the injuries are a massive part. So getting those injuries cleared up would be a start. Particularly getting Theo back would be massive, because I think it gives the team a different dimension going forward with his pace. He can run behind defenders, whereas Giroud, for all his strength, his pace and his sort of mobility and his plus point. So getting Theo back will be a major fillip going into the Christmas period. But also, you say, I think it's important for them to. Arsene Wenger didn't make any outfield signings, much to his. He was criticised massively for that in the summer for not making the outfield signing. And it's, in many ways, over the past few weeks, we can see that game was kind of backfired. I don't think anyone could foresee the the number of injuries that they get in such a short period of time. But at the same time, you know, he probably should have signed another holding midfielder.
Yeah.
In the summer, could he rely on Francis Coquelin not getting injured throughout the whole season? Could he rely on Francis Coquelin not, you know, playing every single game, Premier League game between the summer and the end of the season? I'm not so sure about that. I thought it was a bit of a gamble. The gamble's backfired, so I think in January there has to be, particularly with Coquelin out for around 3 months, I think they're going to have to get the wallet out and get a checkbook out and try and find some reinforcements.
Yeah, I think there's two ways of looking at that Francis Coquelin position. You know, if you can kind of think, all right, if, you know, all season long he can play pretty much every game, but we've got Arteta and Flamini to come in and play the Capital One Cup, here and there. But I think when, you know, this was the thing in the summer that, you know, if Coquelin stays fit, then you think, oh, well, we're absolutely fine, and you can't even see Flamini getting a game. But obviously what's happened is he's had that long-termer, and then the advocate we haven't had those replacements with that quality, really, and that's, you know, perhaps...
That's the thing, is it? I think Arteta's performances towards the end of last season, not towards the end, but last season in general, I think you could see he was a force a little bit on the wane, you know. So I think, and we know that obviously with Flamini, they were actively trying to sell him in the summer. You know, his two backups are kind of way off the pace already in terms of the squad. So I thought it was a little bit remiss of the manager not to sign a sort of, you know, at least an experienced. It wouldn't necessarily have to be a 30-40 million pound sort of defensive midfield, but at least an experienced centre midfielder who can go straight into the team, no fuss, no hassle, and could cover for Coquelin if there was, you know, if there was an injury, which is proved to be the case.
Yeah, I've kind of got two questions actually about that. I'm going to ask them both now so I don't forget the second one. But I mean, one about that particular position is Callum Chambers. He played 10 minutes or so against Zagreb at the Emirates, about 10 days ago, and then he played a full 90 for the under-21s, for the reserves, as most fans call them, the other night. And he played in that position as well, in sort of holding midfield, defensive midfield. Is that someone that could fill in, could perhaps, you know, I don't know, do a job there, or do you think it's just it's not going to happen for him there? What do you think? I've actually forgotten the second question, by the way, so we'll go with that.
I think it's certainly an option. When they signed him from Southampton for, you know, I think, you know, 18 months ago now.
Yeah.
I remember being told at the time that Arsene Wenger saw him as a long-term centre midfielder, as a holding midfielder.
Okay.
I don't think he saw him quite right now. I think he still wanted to give him a few games at right back and centre back, just to bed him into the squad and bed him into senior football, because prior to that he hadn't played much. He played a few games for Southampton and 6 months for Southampton, and that was pretty much about it. But I do know that it's a position that Arsene Wenger feels that Callum Chambers can play. Despite him not playing regularly recently, I know that Arsene Wenger still rates Callum Chambers very, very highly. He's had various options to perhaps loan him out. He declined to do that. He still wants him part of the squad. And so, you know, with Coquelin missing, and now obviously Cazorla missing, there might be an opportunity for Chambers to play a few games in that midfield position and see how he gets on.
And I mean, sort of moving on to where Callum Chambers' position is at the moment, and you know, as a centre back, if Chambers does move further forward into midfield and maybe does okay, and that is his long term position, then Arsenal will probably be looking at centre back, because, you know, Per Mertesacker's not getting any younger. But Arsene Wenger's always said he likes 4 centre backs. I know in the last few years he did cope with 3, but I mean, there's been rumours about Stones from Everton. Can you see that deal happening, or is there anyone else you think could perhaps come in?
I can believe the interest. I think the interest is real. I'm sure they take John Stones in a heartbeat. For me, John Stones is the best, the best English centre-back, young centre-back in the country. Will go on to probably captain England one day. So I think the interest is obvious. Whether they want to get into a fight with the likes of Man United, Chelsea, and Man City for him, I'm not sure that Arsenal will do that. They'll be the likes of Chelsea, City, United will be throwing money.
Yeah.
Will be throwing money at Everton. Will be throwing money at John Stones as well.
Yeah.
And as we know from Arsenal, they're not that sort of club. They're not the sort of club to go gung ho. They're very considered in the transfer market, and they don't get getting involved in those sort of bidding wars. So while I can believe the interest in John Stones, whether I see it coming off, I'm not so sure, I feel.
Yeah, it's funny you say they're not the type of team to go gung-ho, but we've seen that on the pitch plenty of times. I think in the Monaco game last year, where we completely went gung-ho and, left the back door open. But, hey, it maybe differs. Moving along to kind of Saturday, which is a Saturday 3 o'clock kickoff, actually, which is kind of nice. It doesn't happen too often.
Long time, yeah.
Yeah.
I've been here since 3 o'clock. Yeah.
Exactly. What do you think? I mean, there's obviously a few selection issues. I mean, I think it looks like Laurent Koscielny will be okay, but at the same time, I think he might just play Gabriel instead, just to give Koscielny an extra few days until Olympiacos, perhaps. We all think Sanchez is definitely out, and we think Cazorla's out. For how long? Obviously, we have our estimates, but I won't ask you to name yours because often they can be setbacks and then people maybe jump on you. But certainly for Saturday, Aaron Ramsey will surely play in the centre, won't he? Yeah,
I think so. I think that's a safe bet. And I think you're right, Akhil. I think it'll be about priority for Arsenal on Saturday. Does he risk Laurent Koscielny ahead of the trip to Greece next week, or does he rest him? To make sure that he's fit enough to play in that massive game against Olympiacos. As I say, it depends on his priorities. I reckon he might rest him, play Gabriel Mertesacker. That should be more than enough to deal with probably Defoe and Fletcher.
I think Defoe's out, isn't he? Didn't he? He came off after 20 minutes, I think, on the weekend with either a hamstring or a pulse.
Well, he picked up an injury. Yeah, he picked up an injury against Palace as well when he limped off. So it might be a recurrence of that.
Maybe, yeah.
Fletcher's still a decent player, but I think should have more than enough to deal with Sunderland at the back. So I wouldn't be surprised if he gets a rest.
Yeah.
It's actually midfield. Cazorla out. Coquelin out, so I think we'll probably see a centre midfield with Flamini and Aaron Ramsey.
Yeah.
And then obviously Chamberlain's back, so he'll slot in down one of the flanks, Akhil Campbell, alongside Mesut Ozil.
Yeah.
I think obviously, yes they've had 2 new injuries in the Santi and Sanchez.
Yeah.
Thankfully for Arsene Wenger, you've got Chamberlain back and Ramsey back now. So you've got ready-made replacements for those two. So that's been a bit of a godsend, to be fair.
Yeah. I mean, what do you think of Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain? Because he kind of, when he first came onto the scene, he kind of, he kind of burst onto the scene a little bit, and people were obviously naturally comparing him to Walcott, but they were saying, actually, I remember fans saying Chamberlain's probably got more of a brain, more of an end product, he's more direct, and people preferred him to Theo for a little while, and then I think, he's kind of his final decision wasn't great, Chamberlain I'm talking about, and then he kind of, maybe injuries haven't helped as well, but he's kind of hasn't seemed to progress, and, he has had a few chances here and there, but, I mean, he'll probably never get a better chance than he will in the next week or two, with kind of the injuries that are in place. How do you think he'll do, and how do you kind of rate him, and how do you think he's done at Arsenal?
All right. I think he's a fantastic player. I think he's got I think he's got the capability to go on and become I know I might be a bit of a long shot here, but I think he can go on and be an England legend, because I think he's a really, really fantastic footballer. You know, you make the comparisons there with Theo Walcott, and, you know, those comparisons are easy to make. They're both very quick, you know, both got an eye for goal, but for me, I'm a big fan of Theo Walcott, but for me, Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain is a better footballer, got a better brain. I think he's got more to his game than Theo probably has. But the big problem, and you mentioned it there, actually, the big problem for him has been staying fit.
Yeah.
Every time he seems to have got hands under his belt and he starts flying, he invariably picks up an injury. I know this season he had a good pre-season, and he had an injury-free pre-season. And I was speaking to him while he was on England duty not too long ago.
Yeah.
And he was confident. He was confident that he was over the fitness issues, and he stayed fit this season. But lo and behold, the hamstring, got to pick up a hamstring against Sheffield Wednesday, which is setting back.
Yeah.
Setting back a few games. But luckily for Alex, unluckily for Arsene Wenger, his return comes after with Arsenal a bit of a injury crisis. So it looks like he's going to get a few games, and it's up to him now to grasp the opportunity.
Yeah, I mean it certainly is a big opportunity, because even when the next player to be back is probably Theo Walcott, who may play up front rather than out wide, and might so there's certainly opportunities there, and there's obviously the other flank, because Joel Campbell's, even though he's done well in bits, I'm not sure he's convinced anyone yet that he's going to be a regular starter for Arsenal. But he's certainly shown some potential, which is obviously good. But I think we kind of look to players like that to step up. And actually, that was my other question earlier on that I forgot. That I think sometimes and this is what I've heard sort of from fans, and maybe what I think myself as well, that sometimes these players, who are squad players, who are looking to kind of make it, or looking to get into the team, when they've been called upon, haven't stepped up enough. You kind of hear, I don't want to pick on him, but you hear someone like Mathieu Debuchy saying that, he might leave in January because he wants to play. But sadly, when he has played, he hasn't looked anywhere near the Mathieu Debuchy of when we bought him. And maybe that's because Hector Bellerin's doing so well. There's two things there. I mean, there's one that, how difficult maybe is it when you're kind of a part of that B side, and you're always playing in a B side. If someone like Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, when he played against Sheffield Wednesday, even though he came off after a couple of minutes, but that game he was playing with a lot of young players, the non-regulars, but put him in a team with Mesut Ozil, Alexis Sanchez, Aaron Ramsey, Theo Walcott even, then suddenly, does it change for them? Are they more motivated, or is it more, well, I suppose it is easier, but basically, why aren't these players perhaps stepping up as much as we want them to, when we call upon them?
I think we have to remember, Akhil, that these guys are finely tuned athletes. They're elite athletes, And while, us supporters and us guys are watching from the outside say, he's definitely got the talent, he's just not putting the shift in, when he comes on. I think you need to look a little bit deeper than that. It takes, it will take a player, 2-3 games to get up to the pace of where they were, when they were playing regularly. So to ask a player to replace someone and immediately be up to speed, particularly in modern day football, particularly in the Premier League as well, where the game's so quick, is a massive ask. The pace of the Premier League is unrelenting, and it takes particularly foreign stars, a season, maybe even two, to acclimatise. We can see Mesut Ozil now, he seems to have finally acclimatised to the Premier League, and we're now seeing the real Mesut Ozil. He's been fantastic. So to ask players, who are supreme athletes, to jump in and out of the side and to play bit part roles is difficult. So I think we need to give them a little bit of leeway in terms of that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, Akhil, when it's a squad game, so Arsene Wenger probably doesn't want to hear those sort of excuses. When you when you've got an injury and you've got your replacements, you need them to step up. But I'm afraid it's probably not quite as easy as that.
Yeah. I mean, does Arsene Wenger have to take a bit of responsibility there as well and think, well, these players, if he expects them to step up when called upon, he does need to give them some minutes, whether it's in the under-21s or whether it's kind of coming on or having the odd games. Does he have to perhaps rotate the squad a little more when everyone's fit, obviously?
I think so, yeah. I think he should take partial blame for that, because today, more so than ever, it's a squad game. You should rotate. You need to rest your players. We've seen over the weekend with the injury to Sanchez. We knew he was in. Arsene Wenger said on his press conference, I was there on the Thursday, that he picked up a hamstring injury.
Yeah, alarm, wasn't it? He used the word.
Yeah, an alarm, and he said, prior to that, he was quite keen to give Alexis Sanchez a break. So, putting two and two together, you'd think that trip to Carrow Road would have been the perfect opportunity to give Alexis a break, and he didn't. He didn't do so, and we know the consequences of that. We now, perhaps Arsenal's best player is gonna be spending sort of 3 to 4 weeks on the sideline. Yeah. So I think it is down to the manager to rotate, and it is down to the manager to review the workload of his players. And I think the next one he needs to review is Mesut Ozil.
Yeah.
Mesut Ozil did have a full summer's break. He did play. There wasn't a tournament in the summer, unlike Sanchez who played in the Copa America. But still, imagine now if Mesut Ozil was to pick up a little muscle tear or a minor injury like that. It's the last thing that Arsenal would need. So, I certainly think Arsenal needs to review, certainly review that tactic and maybe give some more of his squad a few more minutes. But in defence, Akhil, when you're going for the title, you want to have your best team out.
Exactly.
When you go for the title, you want to have your best team out for as much of the game as you can. So. It's a bit of a catch-22 for him.
Yeah, I think with Ozil he did get a bit of a breather because he didn't play for Germany in the last set of internationals, so he got sort of a 10-day kind of break.
He had a break.
But then saying that, so did Francis Coquelin, and 30 minutes into West Brom, he did his cruise shirt. So sometimes it's just rest. Yeah, might stop the muscle injuries, but if you get just either an impact or just plain bad luck, then sometimes it's difficult to do anything about that. I certainly think it's about managing the squad for the next 3 games. We've got Sunderland, Olympiacos and Aston Villa, and then we've actually got probably a 7 or 8 day gap because we play Sunday, then we don't play again until the following Monday against City. So we've kind of got that kind of gap. It's a real job on there right now, isn't it, for the manager?
Absolutely.
In terms of to kind of wrap it up a little bit now as well, I mean, how do you think, if you had a crystal ball and you could predict how you think the season will finish for Arsenal, how would you, are you one of those who thinks actually, Sanchez not, his hammy's not too bad, he'll be back, Wilshere, Welbeck, and they'll all be back sort of January. Can you see Arsenal sustaining a challenge, or do you think even though they could win it, they'll ultimately fall short?
Yeah, I certainly think, Akhil, this time they can sustain a challenge. I think they've got enough about them. When they get all their players back, as long as they don't fall too much off the radar during this little spell they've got with injuries at the moment, if they can, get all their players back and still be in touch, I certainly think they can maintain a sort of a bona fide title challenge. But I still have reservations over whether they can go the full hog. I still think they. As well as Francis Coquelin has done, and when he comes back, it'll be a massive bonus. I still think they lack a world-class holding centre midfielder, a kind of player I would call a monster, guy that can eat up the yards, you can go box to box. I still feel they miss that. I still feel they miss a world-class.
Do Do you think Aaron Ramsey could do that? I know he's not a monster in terms of Patrick Vieira size, Yaya Toure height wise, but is he that? Because he covers a lot of ground, though, the boy.
Yeah, no, listen, he puts a shift in. He certainly puts a shift in, but I think Aaron Ramsey's qualities are going forward. You know, if he makes things tick in the final third, I think defensively he could probably play that role. But I think that, you know, if you ask him to play that role on a regular basis, and I think you lose a little bit of Aaron Ramsey's main qualities.
Yeah.
So. As I say, you mentioned Vieira there. You know, listen, those sort of players come around once in a lifetime.
Yeah, exactly.
But you know, if you can, you know, if you can get close to that, if you can sort of find a player who can do that job and do that job well, who's proven, a proven player, then you know, I certainly think. And the problem is with the January window, mate, is we all know you can't find the value for money, and you just, you know, the better plays are available in the summer, and that's the fact of the matter. So whether Arsenal can get the sort of player with the sort of quality that they're looking for in January, I'm not so sure, but they certainly need to make some reinforcements given the injury cost.
I mean, you say that, but I mean, I agree, and I know Arsene Wenger has said that a lot. But you know, I look at last year, we signed Gabriel, who does look a good player. I know he got turned for the goal against Norwich, but he does look a good player. A year before, we got Nacho Monreal, who's now one of the best left backs in the league, I think you could argue. And I've just finished reading Amy Lawrence's book on the Invincibles a little bit late. I've had a few books to read, so I've just caught up. And a lot of the players talked about that January having Jose Antonio Reyes come in. Even though he didn't quite perhaps live up to his expectations, he still added something. Certainly, a lot of the players mentioned once the title was won, and he kind of kept them going a little bit. He scored a few important goals then. You know, so that January signing can be important just for the squad as well. It can give them a boost, surely, can't it?
1,000,000%. I think you know you hit the nail on the head there. I think if they can get the right type of signing in January, you know, it could provide a platform for a you know, as I say, a proper title challenge. Listen, Arsene Wenger knows which areas need strengthening. You know, centre midfield, and he could probably do with another centre forward. If he can, the money's there, and we know the money's there.
Yeah.
And if he can get the two players that you know he wants, and as we know, as we said, he's not a fan of buying in January. If he can find the two players that he wants, and I would certainly wouldn't rule out Arsenal for the title.
Yeah, I mean, Andre Arshavin was another one who maybe gave them a boost. Certainly didn't maybe live up to his expectations as well, but certainly gave them a boost. I think in terms of signings, I think up front he'll stick to his principles a little bit. If he can find that world class player who's available, then I think he'll get him. But I don't think he'll just go for anyone. He'll wait for Welbeck to be back. And I think, but obviously in the holding midfield, it's a little bit different. His first choice is out injured, so, you know, we don't know, but we shall see. And the final question, will you vote Mesut Ozil as your PFA Writers Player of the Year in your vote?
It's a good question. I
asked Neil Ashton that as well, to be fair.
Did you? He'd certainly be a contender. I'm trying to think of who, given I cover a lot of London clubs, I'll tell you who I was impressed with prior to his injury was Dimitri Payet.
Okay, he was doing well, wasn't he?
Every time I watched him, he had a good game. But listen, Ozil's been fantastic, and if he continues in this vein of form, then he'll certainly be a contender for the Football Award, because he's playing fantastically well at the moment.
If Jamie Vardy keeps playing how he is, or even Mahrez at Leicester, then suddenly
Mahrez, absolutely. So there's a lot of guys out there who are you wouldn't expect. And having a very good season, so the competition's fierce, but it's great for the Premier League.
Yeah, absolutely, and hopefully Mesut Ozil does win it, which will mean Arsenal win the league. But we will see.
That'd be great.
Sami, thanks for your time. appreciate it, and
Thanks, Akhil, top man.
hopefully we'll speak again soon.
Cheers, buddy.
Cheers, mate. Bye.